Hi, Zach. This is my microphone. Sorry, it's kind of sucky. I wanted to comment on one of your comments for your video commenting on people's comments, or emails rather. You postulate and assert in one of your comments that marriage is a religious institution, and as your other viewer and I also assert, absolutely it is not a religious institution, not in the least. If you look back in history to the first marriages, they were strictly economic and legal bindings. They were to garner either a dowry for taking a wife into your household or to garner political power by marrying into his or her family. It wasn't a religious institution. The churches, the religion, the priests and priestesses of the time might have blessed it, because if it was especially like a king or an emperor getting married, who he married would have a big impact on the times. So the churches could say this is going to be a good marriage or it'll be a bad marriage and try and influence policy that way. But from the beginnings of time, marriage was first and foremost a legal and economic binding and institution. The religious trappings came later when churches and religions tried to influence their followers and their leaders that way. If you look back in history, far back, probably before even Babylonian times, you'll probably find that, or even probably past Babylonian, even to the early Egyptian era and whatnot, the common folk, the peasantry, didn't legally record their marriages. They had a ceremony to celebrate, but they probably weren't legally recorded until later times when the bureaucracy really grew and, the state could tax marriages and all that. But absolutely not. Marriage is not a religious institution in the least. It has always been economic and, to a lesser degree, political. And if you look at the reasons for marriage, the drive for marriage, it was pretty much to protect a wife and her children. Women, when marriages first came about, had very little influence and power usually. They were either their father's or their husband's property. They went from their father's household to their husband's, and if they lived in certain societies, they never actually left that household if they were good wives. And if it was to protect women from having men make children with them and not support them, leaving them with mouths to feed. It's always been about, either garnering money or power and to protect women and children from fathers who don't want to deal with them and don't want to support them. One of your commenters that you were talking about was talking about marriage as the Christian ceremony, and absolutely it is not a Christian or even religious ceremony, as I've been saying. Too often in our country, the United States, we like to pretend that Christianity is the only religion that matters in politics, and absolutely it shouldn't. It's not the way it is. I've lived overseas. I lived in the Persian Gulf for 6 months, and if you want to talk about a whole different dynamic of marriage, in Qatar, where I lived, you could have up to 4 wives, and as long as you could support them all equally, you could have 4 wives. And throughout history there's been polygamy, and there's been even some circumstances of women with many husbands, and there's a word for that, I don't know what it is. But the idea that marriage is a religious ceremony is such a load of crap, and it's so silly. It completely ignores history and the facts of what this word is. If you look at the dictionary, I have my American Heritage Dictionary here with me. It says marriage, the legal union of a man and a woman as husband and wife. A wedding, a close union. And it says nothing about religion or a church, priests or priestesses, anyone of the nature. The closest you could say religion or marriage being a religious institution, the closest you could get to that is how the church would give its blessing. And that's it. That's all the religious ceremony is. It's a blessing from God or the gods or the goddess or whoever on this union. It's, here you go, good luck, make many children, be happy together. It's thoroughly illegal and economic binding. And personally, I actually favor the abolition of marriage as a legal institution. I don't think we really need it in our society, and I think it's actually holding us back. I think we'd have all the more reason to equalize wages between men and women if there wasn't the support of a husband for a woman, and maybe we could take some of the benefits of marriage, tax breaks and inheritance rights, and we could spread those a bit more evenly and honor people's wills more thoroughly. But no, marriage is not a religious institution. It never has been, and hopefully it never will be. Certainly religions can have their say on marriage, but they didn't create the institution and they don't have a monopoly on it. And I think talking about marriage as a religious institution even holds our community, the gay community, back when you talk about this, because, as I said, it gives them an unfair monopoly on it, and if you don't have religion in the mix, then it's such a clear-cut issue. There really is no issue. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say, and I love your blogs, both of them, Style and Excess, and The Bible According to Zach. I think they're both great. So good luck with those, and thanks for the videos. Bye-bye.